It begins in the dark, a car speeding down a lonely road, headlights cutting through the mist, and the sound of something moving in the trunk. Goodfellas wasn't just another gangster film. It felt alive, fast, dangerous, and full of fire. Every shot had rhythm. Every voice had weight. Every silence felt heavy. This movie didn't just show crime. It showed what it felt like to live inside it. The excitement, the fear, the smell of money, and the sound of betrayal. When Goodfellas came out, it didn't just entertain people, it shook them. It changed the way movies about crime would ever be made again. But behind the camera were stories even wilder than what we saw on screen. Funny, scary, and strange. So grab a chair, take a deep breath, and let's dive in to discover 20 weird and amazing facts about Goodfellas. 1990. Number 1. The real Henry Hill couldn't stay away. Henry Hill, the real-life mobster behind the story, didn't just inspire the movie, he lived inside it. When Goodfellas hit theaters, Henry was supposed to stay hidden under witness protection. Instead, he showed up at screenings, laughing and pointing at the screen saying, "That's me." He even started giving interviews again. The FBI warned him to stop, but he didn't listen. Fame called louder than fear. He loved how Ray Liotta played him. Calm but dangerous. He said it was like watching his own ghost. But the truth, his second life ended up just as messy as the first. What looked like pride was a man falling back into his own shadow. Number 2. The funny how scene was pure improvisation. That famous moment when Tommy snaps, "Funny how? Funny like I'm a clown?" wasn't written in the script. Joe Pesci told Scorsese it came from a real story. Years earlier, Pesci had joked with a gangster who suddenly turned cold and said, "What's funny about me?" Scorsese loved it and told Pesci to act it out with Ray Liotta, while the rest of the cast had no clue what was coming. When the camera rolled, the laughter, the unease, the frozen smiles, all of it was real. Everyone thought Pesci had lost it. The energy was electric. What looked rehearsed was pure instinct and danger. Number 3. Ray Liotta didn't want the real Henry's help. You might think Ray Liotta studied Henry Hill for months, but he didn't even meet him until filming was done. He wanted to play the man, not mimic his charm or excuses. Liotta said, "I didn't want to fall in love with him. I wanted to understand him." During shooting, he listened to hours of taped interviews to get Henry's rhythm, his mix of calm and chaos. When the real Henry finally saw Liotta's performance, he laughed and said, "You got me." You really did. What looked distant was deep respect. Number 4. Robert De Niro studied a real gangster's movements. De Niro never plays halfway. His character, Jimmy Conway, was based on Jimmy Burke, a real gangster sitting in prison during filming. De Niro called him constantly, asking about little things. How did you hold your glass? How did you tip waiters? How did you move when you were mad? Burke told him everything, proud that a movie star wanted his advice. De Niro even learned how Jimmy folded bills twice before handing them out. He said, "The details make the man." What looked effortless was built one careful move at a time. Number 5. The prison cooking scene was deliciously real. That famous moment where the mobsters cook pasta in prison wasn't movie magic. It came straight from Henry Hill's memories. He said they had wine, steak, even fresh garlic sliced so thin it melted in oil. On set, the actors cooked for real. The studio smelled like garlic, pepper, and wine all day. Paul Sorvino sliced onions so carefully that even the crew stood watching. They said it felt less like filming and more like being invited into a family dinner. A dangerous one. What looked cozy was drawn from real luxury behind bars. Number 6. Scorsese almost walked away before filming began. Scorsese nearly quit. The studio thought the movie was too violent, too fast, too Italian. They begged him to make it more normal. Scorsese refused. He said, "I don't do normal, I do real." He fought for every scene. The pacing, the chaos, the music. He said Goodfellas wasn't about gangsters. It was about temptation, about people chasing the dream and losing their souls on the way. What looked confident was the courage of a man refusing to water down truth. Number 7. The tracking shot took all day. The 3-minute one-take scene where Henry and Karen enter the Copacabana is one of the most famous shots in movie history, but it was torture to film. The camera followed them through kitchens, stairs, narrow halls, waiters, and doors, all in one take. They had to redo it 8 times. The Steadicam operator's arms ached, extras missed cues, and once a waiter dropped a tray. But Scorsese refused to cut. He said, "It should feel like a dream." The world opening up just for them. When they finally nailed it, the whole crew clapped. What looked smooth was sweat and nerves. Number 8. Ray Liotta's fear was real. When Ray Liotta shot the last day sequence, paranoid, sweating, hunted, he was genuinely exhausted. He barely slept for 3 nights to feel what Henry felt. Wired, empty, terrified. Scorsese kept the camera close, letting Liotta's panic fill every frame. You can almost see his heart beating through his shirt. The sound of helicopters and ticking clocks came later, but Liotta's anxiety was already real. What looked like acting was real exhaustion and fear. Number 9. Joe Pesci's mother was horrified. Joe Pesci's real mother came to see her son's big movie premiere. She was proud, until she saw him stab a man in a car. She gasped out loud, "Joseph, my God!" The audience laughed, thinking it was a joke. But she wasn't joking. She couldn't believe her quiet, polite boy could be so violent on screen. Pesci later said she never quite forgave him for that crazy scene. What looked like applause hid a mother's heartbreak. Number 10. The real Tommy was even worse. Tommy DeVito, Pesci's wild, funny, dangerous character, was based on Tommy DeSimone, a man far more brutal. The real Tommy was over 6 feet tall and quick to anger. People said he laughed after hurting people. Even other gangsters avoided him. Scorsese toned him down. The real stories were too dark, too cruel. Even Henry Hill said, "If you think the movie Tommy was bad, the real one was worse." What looked extreme was actually softened for sanity's sake. Number 11. The Copacabana scene was a love story. That long, glowing walk through the club wasn't just showing glamour. It showed seduction. Scorsese said it was how love feels. Dizzy, smooth, unstoppable. The camera moves like Henry's heartbeat. The music swells. Every step brings him closer to a world that will one day destroy him. Lorraine Bracco, who played Karen, said she felt the magic too. That walk, she said, was when Karen fell in love. Not with Henry, but with power. What looked romantic was the first step into danger. Number 12. The music was a time machine. Scorsese is obsessed with music. For Goodfellas, he picked every song based on the year of the scene. If a moment happened in 1963, only songs from that year played. It made the movie sound like memory itself, changing with time. He even used songs to show emotion without dialogue. When Layla plays during the body dump montage, the melody sounds sweet, but it's showing death and loss. Scorsese said, "Music is emotion. It tells the truth even when people lie." What sounded stylish was storytelling through sound. Number 13. Paul Sorvino found his power by accident. Paul Sorvino almost quit the film. He said, "I don't look tough enough." But one afternoon, while tying his tie in a mirror, he saw his own cold stare. Quiet, still, terrifying. That was the moment he understood Paulie. A man who didn't need to shout. Power could be silent. He went back to set transformed. Scorsese said, "That's it. That's the guy." What looked like calm leadership was quiet menace. Number 14. The details came from real crime photos. The makeup and wardrobe team didn't imagine those slick suits, pinky rings, or shiny shoes. They studied photos of real New York mobsters from the 50s to the 70s. Every ring, cufflink, and hairstyle came from someone real. They even used the same hair oil brands that old gangsters loved. The goal was not to look fancy, but to smell real. To feel like smoke and whiskey and fear. What looked like fashion was history stitched into fabric. Number 15. Lorraine Bracco's breakdown was real. When Karen points a gun at Henry's face, the tension was so real that Lorraine Bracco started shaking after the take. Scorsese didn't yell "cut" right away. He let her emotions flow. When he finally did, she burst into tears. She said later, "It felt too real. I forgot it was just a movie." The trembling hands, the cracking voice, all real. What looked like performance was a human heart on camera. Number 16. Real ex-gangsters were hired as extras. Scorsese wanted realism. So he hired actual former mob associates as extras in background scenes. Some had small roles, others just stood around. They knew the world, the talk, the body language. The studio didn't know, or didn't want to know, who they were. But on set, everyone treated them politely. Nobody wanted to ask the wrong question. What looked like background detail was the real thing watching itself on screen. Number 17. The F word was used over 300 times. At the time, Goodfellas broke records for swearing. The F word was used more than 300 times, most of it unscripted. The actors talked how real gangsters talked, fast, messy, emotional. Scorsese said it wasn't about being shocking. It was about rhythm. That's how they breathe, he said. They curse like punctuation. What sounded rude was just real speech, unfiltered and alive. Number 18. The studio wanted a happy ending. Warner Brothers didn't like the quiet ending. Henry living in suburbia, eating plain noodles. They said, "Can't we end with a bang?" Scorsese said no. "This is the punishment," he told them, living like an ordinary guy. He fought to keep it. He wanted the last shot. Henry opening the door in his robe, to feel like a ghost haunting himself. What looked dull was the truest revenge, to lose everything that once made you feel alive. Number 19. Real guns were used on set. In the early scenes, the actors held real guns, unloaded but genuine. Scorsese said fake ones didn't move right. The actors felt the weight, the cold metal, the danger. It changed how they stood, how they spoke, even how they breathed. De Niro said, "You respect the weapon more when it's real." What looked like control was real tension hiding in plain sight. Number 20. Henry Hill cooked for the crew. During filming, the real Henry Hill showed up one evening and cooked pasta for everyone. He told stories, joked, and even corrected details about how gangsters talked. The cast listened closely, half amazed, half uneasy. It felt like the movie world and the real world had suddenly merged, and nobody could tell which was which. What looked like a fun night was history sitting at the table. Bonus fact: the title almost changed everything. The film was first called Wise Guy, like the book. But there was already a TV show with that name. So Scorsese switched it to Goodfellas. He said it sounded more natural, like how real mobsters talked. He's a good fella. That one small change gave the movie its rhythm, its identity, its timeless voice. One word changed how history would remember it. What seemed small became legend. Goodfellas isn't just a movie. It's a heartbeat made of greed, loyalty, and betrayal. It shows how the dream of power can turn to dust in your hands. Behind every laugh was fear. Behind every suit was blood. Behind every friendship was a knife waiting. It's about how people chase the thrill, until the thrill chases them back. If you enjoyed these stories, subscribe for more. Every movie hides a secret. Every scene a heartbeat from the past. And we'll keep uncovering them, one story at a time.